morning, everyone. Ooh, happy February. It is crazy that this is February already. So, normally, Rose would be popping on here with me and we'd be talking about coaching stuff. However, this morning she's feeling a little bit under the weather, so I thought I would pop on for just a couple minutes and talk to you. So, what are we going to talk about this morning? A couple things. I thought that I would share with you kind of what I'm reading or listening to. I would share with you kind of what things that I've worked on in January and what my focus is going to be in February, because I think that might be of interest and maybe inspire you as well. So, many of you probably know that I am doing a book discussion group. Several women have joined it, and I'm excited about that. So that's going to be one. That was one of the things I put into place in February. In January. We're starting it in February. So we're going to read the 10 Poems to Change Your Life book. So I'm super excited about that. I also, this month, or last month, so this is my January report out. So what I do in January. I downloaded, and I'm an Audible person because I like to listen to things over and over and over again, especially if they really resonate with me. So the first book that I downloaded and listened to that was really focused on growing myself and growing my business, it was 10x is easier than 2x. And that was by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. So the key takeaways from that book. The first thing was it really aligned with how I'm trying to live my life. So their thing wasn't 10x, which means you do even more and you work harder and you spend more time working. Like, that's not the premise of their book, which super aligns with how I'm trying to live my life. So that's my filler word, FYI, that I'm trying to break is the word so. And now I'm going to catch myself every time I'm saying it because I've just made myself super aware. Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy talk about basically building the kind of life you love and scaling your business to fit that lifestyle. The very first thing, and I actually did this on Friday, is to manage your calendar. Go into your calendar and block out days that are called recoup days. So that's days where you do nothing at all. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I did that. I went into my calendar and I blocked out days, and I already committed to, Dan and I are going somewhere the end of March. I'm going to Florida the whole month of June. We are going somewhere in September, Dan and I. Dan is going to come down a week in June, but I'll be there the rest of the time, and I've got some friends who are coming down. But I'm not going to work. I might sketch because I do, and I might do some watercolors, but I'm not going to like paint big canvases or anything like that. Sorry, my throat is cloggy this morning. So, take control of your calendar. And I think the reason that this resonates with me so much is when I left, which by the way, my anniversary for Wisewood and officially like working on it and focusing on it and not working for the Harley dealership is the end of this month. So I've been doing this for 5 years now. And I'm like, what? I've been doing this for 5 years. I can't believe it. It's different. It's different than what it started out being, but it's super amazing. So when I left that environment, more of a corporate job, the reason I left was because I wanted more control of my time. And I wanted to figure it out and be able to do my own thing. And then looking back at it, this is hindsight. You can always see stuff when you look back. Looking back at it, what I realized is that even though I left that role, I brought all those habits with me. So those work habits, the working a ton and always being on and thinking that if I wasn't busy, I wasn't being accomplished. And I brought that habit with me. And then in 2020, when COVID happened, and it forced me to stop because I didn't have any choice, and I started painting, what I gradually realized was that this is the life I love. This is what I want to live. And I stopped wearing busy as a badge. And I love that for myself, and I wish that for all of you. Being busy isn't a badge of honor. Actually finding ways in your life that you can slow down and enjoy them and savor them is so much more happy. I feel so much more happy and content since I figured that out. So because 10x is greater than 2x really aligned with that idea of not being busier but being better, I got super excited about it. So totally recommend that if you're trying to take yourself to the next level. Fantastic book. So in that book, of course, they mentioned the other books, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to read the listen to Become Your Future Self Now. So I listened to it. I'm like, oh, and it really invites you to visualize what your future self is going to be like. The point he makes in the book, there's a lot of research around it, says that people often think that they're not going to change. If they look at the past, they're like, oh yeah, I changed a lot, but in the future I'm going to be the same. And the reality is we're changing and evolving. How we're changing and evolving can be purposeful or it can be accidental. So I've decided to be very purposeful about how I'm evolving to my next iteration of Sarah. So it'll be interesting to see. So I did one of the activities, and there's write your future self a letter as your future self, and then go back and read it. So I wrote that letter in January 2024. I will go back and read it in January 2025 and see am I more like that, which is what I'm trying to do. Then the third book I read, you guys are listened to. I listen to it. I listen to books while I paint. So it's not like I'm sitting down and reading. I just have figured out how to listen and paint at the same time, and it works out perfectly. The third book I listened to was Who Not How by the same authors, and that really resonated with me. If you want to 10x your business, if you want to 10x yourself, you've got to find who's. So I did the most scariest thing I've ever done as a business owner. This last like yesterday, I hired a marketing team, and I put out into the universe. I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. I am looking for this specific type of a group, and I did a bunch of interviews over the last week, and I interviewed these. So one of the things I did, every single person I interviewed or team that I interviewed, I asked them 3 questions. What books are you currently reading? What are your goals in your life? What do you love? What are you passionate about? And what are your goals for your life? And I was listening for very specific answers because I want to find people who align with me in what I believe and what I'm trying to do in the world. So anybody I interviewed and their answers were like, oh, I'm trying to make more money by working a whole bunch more hours. I'm like, nope, they're off the list. And I throughout the week as I was doing the interviews, I talked to Dan, and I was like, one person would have a skill set that I really like. There's some things that I needed, but they would be lacking in some other thing. And then the next person I'd interview, I'm like, oh yeah, they're very strategic and I need that, but they're lacking in something else. And then on Wednesday, my final interview group were just like the perfect fit. And I'll talk about that in my February focus, but super grateful that I found this group that I'm going to start working with. So more to come on that later. The other things that I'm doing, because my future self is going to be good at doing yoga and doing meditation, I think that that's an important part of recovery. Be Your Future Self. I think it was in Be Your Future Self Now. They talk about an interview with LeBron James, and his personal coach and trainer on how that he's been able to play so many more hours than other players in the game and how he's still super good. And they said, like, if he plays the whole game or only plays 10 minutes of the game, the next day they're focused on recovery. And so many of us, the next day, we're not focused on recovery. We're running really hard. We're being super busy, but we're not taking the time to recover. If you want more creative ideas, if you want to be happier, if you want to be more fulfilled, you have to do that time to recover. Part of the thing for me for recovering is the yoga and meditation. Meditation is super difficult for me, and I am actively practicing it to try to get better at it, to get more comfortable with being still and being quiet. For those of you who interact with me often know that being still and being quiet is not one of my natural gifts, so I'm trying to do that. The other thing that I'm super grateful for was in January I sold 3 big paintings, and that was super exciting for me. I'm just being super blessed right now, and I'm living a life that I love. I'm trying to inspire other people to live lives they love as well. I feel like if more people would live lives they love, the world would be a much happier place. So, what is my February focus? Well, February focus, I am going to start a new series. It's called Faces and Spaces of the Divine. I'm super excited about it. You probably won't see anything from it until about March or so, but I am so inspired to get this series started. I'm going to continue to practice being my future self and doing the work that it takes to really grow and become more of what I'm trying to put out into the world. And then the last thing I'm going to focus on in February is becoming a really good team member for my marketing team. It's been a while since I've had to work with other people in this capacity. I mean, I work with people all the time, right? But on a consistent capacity and interacting with them often. And so I spent a lot of time, like 2.5 hours in the last week, just answering questions for them to help them get to know me a little bit better. I wrote a Sarah Andrews dossier. Sounds super fancy, doesn't it? For them, because I want that marketing team to know my heart, and I want my messaging to be aligned, even though that they're going to do some of that work for me. So that is Sarah's update and my focus for next month. I'm sure next Friday Rose will be feeling better and she will hop on here and we will have a coaching conversation. So I wish you an amazing day and a fabulous weekend, and we will see you next week.